Today we are going to deep dive into project status reports. I'm Haley. I am the inbound principal product manager for Core Project Workspace. I'm really excited to dive into this today, especially in the new experience. I know reporting, whether you're working with legacy customers, newer customers, customers that have come over from different platforms, that wherever you go, project status reports are a pretty hot topic, mainly because project managers are creating multiple, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly. So there's a lot of value when it comes to project status reporting, and I'm excited to dive into what we have built as a team and how to leverage all the new capabilities within status reports. All right, so what are we getting into today? First, I want to give a brief overview of the next experience product status reports. Thomas touched on the value and how we went about creating these reports, but I want to dive a little bit deeper. I want to talk about the overall value of these reports, as well as the key capabilities that we think our customers would really love to leverage. And then we'll dive in quickly to configuration and into a live demo. At the end of the presentation, we'll highlight a few of those key features that are coming in upcoming releases as well. So my goal at the end of the session is that you all walk away with a strong understanding of status reports, not only the value of them, but how to help our customers really leverage them in their day-to-day, provide value for them and their stakeholders. So at the core, status reports are for teams and stakeholders to stay aligned on overall project progress, health, and milestones. Our goal with this new experience was to make them as flexible, customizable, and user-friendly. So no more having to tap onto an admin to create all these different configurations and trying to create something that you could really fully use the system. So our status reports are built on our new docs component, which allows for a lot of this customization, dynamic content coming from our backend tables, as well as collaboration. So instead of a single format, we built a status report component that's one size fits all, because you can shape the report to however fits your needs. So we have had some customers reach out to us and to our partners, letting us know that there's certain fields within the status report that they'd like to edit, configure, take out, modify, and you can now do that all within this configurable status reports. There's multiple ways you can do it too. So the goal of this was to really create flexibility for our customers when updating, editing, and creating these status reports. And that's where our new template center comes into play. So if you have downloaded the latest store release for Project Workspace, you'll notice a new component, and that is our template center. So out of the box, we already have two templates created for you. One, which is the default status report if you're working with legacy customers, or if you've taken a look at the classic system, it is all the data that was in your old status report. We also then took some of our customer feedback that was asking us for a quick one-pager to get out to stakeholders, and we also created a template based on some of that feedback as well. That really has your high overview of how your project's doing around health, milestones, and any key summaries. But that's not all. You can create your own templates within Project Workspace. So whether it's from design to actual data that you want to pull into the report, you can create a completely custom template that can be reused each time. So you don't need to go back and create a new status report every time and update the configurations around it. So this new template center is really where you can create all different types of reports and you can reuse that form. I know this feels like a lot of information at once, so I wanted to go ahead and break down the key capabilities before we actually hop into the live demo. We touched on this right before, but we're leveraging the new docs functionality, and it allows for status reports to be extremely flexible. So you can add, edit, modify existing fields, you can restructure them, you could add specific content in tables. You can also save multiple templates depending upon your audience. As an example of this would be, I need a high overview of status, and I want to take out the financial and resource aspect. You can now do that within the template center and recreate that report over and over again. To really add into that flexibility, we've added a couple of customizations to the report. And again, we plan to build on this, but a few things that we have been seeing customers leverage is color coding capabilities. You can do this within the actual doc. Where you can also add images and tables. So we get a lot of feedback from customers that I want to add some branding. A lot will go ahead and put the top bar as their company logo. Some will even take screenshots of the Gantt chart, and I'm going to show that in my live demo as well, and be able to put that in the status report. And then another thing is overall design, so that you can create an executive-ready report. For lack of better words, we heard a lot of feedback that customers wanted a quote-unquote pretty report. And we feel that this new docs component really allows customers to customize their report to fit whatever need. You can also refer to a specific record or tag a user for collaboration within the status report. That leverages the new docs component. An example would be I mentioned a risk record, and then I tagged the user associated with that risk to ask about overall status and next steps before updating my status report and sharing it with a stakeholder. So instead of having to hop outside of the tool to check in with that certain resource or the project manager overseeing that project, you're able to really just collaborate with them and get an update within the actual doc component. Now, with that being said, we created a way that you can set permissions to decide who can edit status reports. So we know some project managers really only want certain team members to just view the report and have no edit capabilities. So you now can do it right within your details page. You don't have to go through admin status and do it on the back end. You can go through the details page and you can update it for specific projects to allow edits on the status report. So let's say you wanted to open edit capabilities for one status report, but you wanted to lock another one down that's going to a key stakeholder. You can now easily adjust the governance of a status report on the details page of the project. So again, really allowing that flexibility within status reports. Another capability that we added is the ability to export to PDF so that it delivers polished reports to stakeholders or team members that might not have access to the actual platform. So you can now export them to PDF, making it easy to distribute in a consistent format. And then the last capability that I'll touch on before hopping into the live demo is the ability to duplicate a report while refreshing the data. So we understand that status reports are created on a very consistent basis, and having to create them can be extremely time-consuming and manual. So you can now easily copy over a report and have the project data refresh. So the manual fields, let's say you put key accomplishments and an executive summary, you can easily now just copy that over and be able to refresh the data, saving you time and that manual effort of recreating reports every week, day, month. And you could do that all within the actual status report component. Quickly touch on configuration. For licensing, it's included in SPM standard and pro licensing. The roles and permissions to leverage project status reports is IT project manager. I'm not sure why that didn't update, but I will make sure that that's updated before we send out those slides, but it is plugin 6.3. And now I will go ahead and hop into the actual demo. I'm going to head over into Project Workspace. And when I look at my projects, I am going to use a project that I've created for this specific demo. So the SPM intensive demo for status reports. As soon as you come into Project Workspace, you'll notice the new component, status report, and you'll also notice the new component for doc templates. This is where you'd go ahead and create any of those status reports templates. I'm going to show you how to create and update and edit templates the second half of this demo. But the first part of this demo, I'm going to walk you through creating new status reports and all the customizations available, as well as governance. So when you come into your new status report component, you'll notice a section of pages. This will have all of your past created status reports. If you are migrating over from the classic system into the next experience, you can also migrate over your old status reports into this new component, and it will show up within this pages section here. So I'm going to go through how to create a status report. As you can see, there is a create new from template. And out of the box, we have the default status report and one page status report that you are able to leverage. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to use the default status report, which pulls in all of the status report tables from the legacy system. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out this information, and I'm going to create the start date to be the 29th so I can get a gist of the last week and a half. Hello. And then the executive summary here, I'm just going to do it for demo purposes, but you can also go ahead and fill out the rest of these fields. I'm going to leave them blank for this demo because I'm going to show you the edit capabilities within the actual doc. But as you can see here, it does pull in all of the data and fields that you had previously in the classic and legacy report. Once I press submit, it must be having some Wi-Fi issues here, but I am going to work within this status report that I created prior and show you how we can make all the editable, how we can make a lot of these fields editable, and then we'll hop into the actual templates that you can create. So as you can see here, I created a status report prior. And when you hover over some of these tables, that's where you'll see that the dynamic fields are being pulled in. So those values are auto-generated, pulling from the back tables from status reports. And I right now don't have edit capabilities within the actual status report. So what I can do is go into the details of my project, look at actual status reports, and be able to say if I want my status report for this specific project, if we're able to allow edits or not. So it was untrue. Let's say I don't want anyone to be able to view the status report. I'll come back here and refresh. And as you can see, the edit icon is completely grayed out, which means I can't go into the status report and edit anything within the actual status report. However, I wanted to change that. Let's say I wanted to add some customizations, whether it's color coding or certain images within the actual status report. I can do that by going back into the details page, looking at overall status reports, and changing this field to true. Once I've changed that field to true, I can come back over to status reports. I'm going to refresh, and you can see that edit icon appear. Now I can come into the actual status report and be able to update some of the status report. So I can come in here and let's say I wanted to change this to green. Actually, let's do a background color. Let's say I wanted to get this to a key stakeholder and for them to be able to immediately call out how the progress is doing. I can color code some of these. So come in here and select certain different customizations that you'd like to make. Another thing that you can do is add images. So a lot of the feedback we get from customers is I want to be able to show actual milestones and the Gantt chart. So a good workaround is to come into the actual console, get a look at the Gantt view. Let me say all actually, so that we can get a better view of the task. You could take a screenshot or you can upload your own image, come back into status reports and be able to add that imagery. So you can really customize it and add branding to it as well. We have a lot of customers that will also update this image here and be able to put their brand logo, especially if it is going to key stakeholder. Another thing you could do within edit capabilities within status report is pull in your own dynamic content. So here I can mention a record as well as a user. So let's say I want to call out a risk and then tag a resource that has been working on that. I can tag Daniel and be able to collaborate with him within the actual doc. That way, before we actually finish updating the report, this will notify Daniel. He can come in here, review the actual risk, and on his end, make any updates before the status report goes out. So it really allows for that collaboration without having to leave the platform and use a third party to make sure that your status report is being completed. Another thing that I wanted to show you all is the ability to copy over a status report here. You would just press that copy action and it would create a copy of that report, but also refreshing the dynamic content. And it defaults to read only. So if you were creating a copy and you didn't want anyone to be able to edit, the default mode is read only. Again, you can go back into the details page, take a look at those status reports and be able to change this to true. That way, when I come back into my status reports and hit a refresh, I can come in here and see that I can edit some of these fields. Another thing that we added to status reports as well is the ability to export as PDF. And it probably won't show within the browser, but it creates this one's about 3 pages, but we also have that 1 pager as well. I'm going to refresh because it's trying to save. Now I'm going to walk you through the actual templates. So we now have a new docs template component. And here you can create all different types of status reports that you would like. So not only default status report, 1 pager, you can create any type of report that's reusable and you can leverage when creating a new status report. So I'll show you what the default status report looks like. When you come in here, you're actually able to go into the doc and update some of the dynamic content, which dynamic content is really pulling from the backend from your project to get true and accurate data. So as you know, the default status report has all the information around your project. However, some people don't want to see all of this information. They're not really interested in financials or resources, or really they want to pull in fields that they don't see within the status report. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this over and start to create my own doc template. You'll change the category here to project status, and you could also restrict the overall visibility. If you want it to be public, restrict it to certain people, or private. I'm going to leave it public for now. Once I press save, it'll then give me the doc tab. And from here, you have a completely blank status report where you can create, customize however you see fit. So I'm just going to paste over to show you how easy it is to just create new status reports. Let's say I wanted to leverage a lot of this data, but I wanted to take out certain fields. You could go ahead and do that. So let's say I actually don't really care about approved, planned, and actual start dates. I can highlight that, take it out. But let's say I actually want to add some other content to the status report. What you do is you press the backward slash key and look at insert dynamic content. Now you don't even have to search for some of this dynamic content. If you know exactly where you want to pull from, you can search. But let's say I wanted to get a better gist on what I can actually pull into this report. You get a nice little scroll here where, let's say to the top of this report, I want to pull in budget. Go ahead and do that again. And I want to pull in actual costs at the top. Oh, I see it there. You could also come down here and completely, if you're not interested in having resources within your actual status report, you can go ahead and delete that as well, really adding to that customizable, configurable status report. And then I really only want my status report to pull in risks and issues. I'm going to go ahead and take out the rest of RIDAC. You can also move certain components. So let's say I actually want to move key milestones above summary. I can go ahead and do that easily with drag and drop. So not having to copy it over, re-pull in certain data. You can easily drag and drop these different components and dynamic content within the actual report. I'm going to go ahead and press save. And when I go back to the docs templates and press refresh, you'll notice the new status report template that I created. So here is really where you can leverage that customizable, configurable status report and create as many as you want for whichever stakeholder or deliverable that you need to. Now, when we go back to the actual status report component, when I go to create new from template, you'll notice the new template that I created. And from here, I can take a look and view details to make sure that this is actually the report that I wanted to use. And you could review it here. As you can see, the budget and allocate actual cost, and then being able to move around milestones to the top of the report, as well as take out resources. From there, you can either go back and edit the template. Let's say you found a mistake, which for me would be adding actual cost twice. You can go ahead and do that. Or let's say I wanted to use the template. I can go ahead and do that as well. And again, you'd come in here to create that new status report and then be able to generate a status report from that template. Getting back into the actual deck, I wanted to touch on a few things, one of them which you probably had seen in the actual demo, but some future enhancements that we are adding to project status reports. Again, this is just the first few iterations. We are going to continue to enhance and add to the actual status report component. So one of the main things that is actually coming out next month is project status report states. This provides project managers a clear and standard view of where each report is at. So some of the feedback that we heard from customers is, I'm creating so many status reports across all these different projects all the time. And it's super manual, but I need to be able to see which ones have been published, which ones have been approved, which ones are still in review. So we created a place where you can actually add the status of the report to give that project manager visibility into where that status report is. And another thing we plan on adding is data visualization. So as you saw, I was taking screenshots of the actual Gantt chart and we were working with tables. But our vision for status report is to really take that complex data and turn it into clear, actionable insights using data visualization. So we are planning to add in the near future data visualization so that a key stakeholder, or really anyone reviewing your report, can easily see where you're at with overall project health and status.